Hello, Attactioneers. Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Morrow.
And I'm your host, Colin Honigman. What's up, Taylor?
Pew, 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 pew.
I love how it came in with like all the phlegm all in the beginning. Way to go.
That's part of your signature, though, is like kind of a asthmaed guy, an allergenic
Mouth noises
on the
and
mic.
nasal congestion kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's
It's your je ne sais quoi, or whatever the French term is for that. It's your little juge on top.
I don't know what.
That's why your wife married you. That and your hog. Anyway.
My hog's name is Bessie. She's a good pig.
Award winning.
What's up, dude?
Blue ribbon.
I'm doing great. So today, I took out a pack of mystery meat from the freezer. It was frozen, unlabeled. And to my delight, it was a bunch of steak. So I had steak for dinner. So that was fun.
Cool. I had steak for lunch, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Beef boys.
Beef boys.
Mr. Beef Hammer coming back.
That's right.
Remember that? Wink.
I do. That was my old internet name and my Pokemon Go name.
Nice.
And then my wife was Mrs. Beef Hammer. And then my friend Troy was like, well, I'll just one up you. I'll be Dr. Beef Hammer. So that was fun running around in that augmented reality as the Beef Hammers. We show up to raids and people be like, hey, the Beef Hammers are here.
This is my son, Dr. Beef Hammer.
I set him up for success right away by just naming him Doctor.
He's the only doctor.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess today we're talking about nationals. The national season has started. We're going to mostly focus on the United States Nationals that happened this past weekend. Spoiler alert, somebody won.
Oh, okay. We also should talk about this also. Isaac is still a part of the podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Important note.
He's still part of it. We have a lot of fires in our county and the surrounding county. So as a real life hero, firefighter class, he doesn't have a talent, just straight firefighter class.
Water spraying.
Yeah, totally. That's why we don't play Fab anymore. He just gets my cards all wet with his hose. It's also a sex joke in there too. But and then he got COVID, and now he's a little sicky boy. So he can't podcast. So we got Colin. Thank God we have Colin.
Thank God. I just cough sometimes and am full of congestion. So I'll do. I'm technically.
But it doesn't hold you back because you're fucking Ford built tough.
That's my normal state. So that's where we operate from.
Just kind of sickly.
So shout out
would
to
have never made it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Shout out to
in
Isaac.
The 1800s.
Look, I would have been fine as long as I had
man.
glasses. Both of us would have been in trouble if there weren't glasses. That's for sure.
That's true.
But yeah, shout out to Isaac, who's not feeling good, but hopefully feeling better soon, and will be back joining us whenever he's healthy and nothing's on fire.
Yeah. Love you, bud. That was to Isaac, so. And to the audience.
We'll wait for him to respond.
Yeah, totally. We'll be here for the next 4 days.
All right.
Have enough hard drive
While we
space.
wait for Isaac to respond by messenger pigeon or some other form of Neolithic technology, let's talk about the news. First up, it says literally nothing, but that's not true. We found some news. One of those things is Briar has living legend, technically, though we have to wait till Bright Lights comes out for that to happen. So everyone's going to be bringing the Fatigue Briar deck to their locals for one last jaunt.
That's fun.
Is it? But we have
I
that to
don't
look
know.
forward to. But we're not going to talk about that too much because we're going to talk about that in our reaction step where we react to something with hot takes, and that will be that. So for now, we'll just say that's happened, and then we'll talk about what we think that means soon.
Yep. And okay, the deep lore attactioneers know we do a reaction step every month. Now look, this month there hasn't been a lot to reaction step to. There's always this weird quiet period before national season, and then national season starts, and then stuff happens. And national season has come at the very end of the month. So we're not going to get to this reaction step till September, but that means you're going to get a double dipping of the reaction step. 2 combat chains worth of reactions.
Ooh, link after
So,
link after link coming at you.
like sausages.
Yeah, fear not. We will produce the content we promised to do for
Yep,
free as usual.
exactly.
Next up in the
So,
news.
next up, Bright Lights pre-released, sealed. We knew it was coming. We get a little nugget about the crank ability having to do with a conveyor belt and items and turning scrap into strength. So kind of the spoiler tease, a little teasy tickle about the third mechanologist hero is my summation of that coming out of Bright Lights, talking about it being item based. We know that we have somebody based on boost, evos, and items. So it's kind of the little tasty nug in there. And if you didn't know, sealed now for Bright Lights is going to be 4 packs
Yep.
instead of 6. And my hope is that then I think this is a great thing because pre-releases are a little expansive at $30. So it dropping down to a $20 buy-in with 4 packs, I hope, is a lot easier to get people into. There's just something about one US dollar bill being easier to feel like you're paying, or just easier to pay, you know? You just got to get that second dollar bill in there.
Well,
or bill of currency.
Joke's on you because the FAQ says they can charge up to $30. Hopefully they say, well, this is only 4 packs, or they charge you 30 and they give you like 2 participation packs. Like
that'd be cool.
I'll take packs as long as you're not charging me extra for just 4 packs. But
exactly,
knowing some stores, they will because they can. Anyways, yep, just the teeniest little morsel, like, you know, like something your dog found on the ground and ate. You didn't even know it was there. This little spoiler about crank ability. Almost missed it. Thank God they bolded it in this article, or else we would have missed it. But yeah, that sounds fun. I'm still excited about this set. I think it's just time. It feels like, I don't know. It feels like we're stagnant. I mean, looking at the Icelander decks from this past weekend, they're the same as last year. So what are we even doing here?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great little thing I wanted to just mention is I'm really hoping for a Bright Lights meta shakeup. You know what I mean? In the classic constructed sense. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously it's limited, so I'm going to have a ton of fun doing that. But personally, for myself, I need a Bright Lights, just real shakeup. I need a CC shakeup. We need somebody else in there. You know what I mean?
Dash OP. So, speaking of Dash won the Australian National Championships, which good for that guy. I don't care. More exciting to me is that Kano was the runner-up. And pivoting into shout-outs, the news and the shout-out is to Fahad for taking Kano to his national champions all the way to the finals. Like, what a baller. Makes me question myself as a person. Because, like, I love Kano, but I just I died a Dromai every week at Armory, and I just got tired, so I stopped. And then he's just like, check this out, Haydendale. You play Thamai, I'm gonna deal 30 damage, and then you gotta question everything that happens after that. And it's a great game. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on Fluke and Box's channel. Yeah, the final is like 4 turns. It's just max velocity, like on turn 1 or something.
Yeah.
It's so nuts. You're just like, oh god, it's the worst thing you could see as a Kano player. Is just like, well, I'm gonna die very soon.
Yeah.
But it was still fun, and both the players had like good spirits, and they were very like, jovial, and good camaraderie there. Just excited to have performed well at their nationals. So shout out to them. Shout out to everybody who played at their nationals all around the world. Big numbers so far. I think over, was it 1,000 something different players participating. Yeah, it's like over 1,000 players, like in a bunch of different countries. And we're just getting started. There's still a bunch more nationals coming up. So
yeah, in one weekend, pretty nuts.
Yeah. Pretty
nuts. Continuing shout outs. Shout out to our main man Patrick.
Woo!
In the Discord.
Patrick.
He is like the most helpful person all of the time. Yeah. He hooked us up with a huge data sheet for all the data. He knew where that was.
Associate producer Patrick, we'll call him now.
Yeah, totally. And he always hooks us up with rules questions when we're recording.
Yeah.
And he's just always online.
Literally live. We'll type in rules questions and he'll come back to us.
Yeah, totally. Happens all the time. Yeah, so thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, man, thank you.
Also, a good friend of mine. There you go.
Lucky him.
Another shout out to my guy, Ethnic Smoke, aka Pankaj. He's just the nation's best caster. I think hands down, I'm crowning him the nation's best caster. I always keep the sound on when he's on the mic. He's just a great analyst, and give that guy more work. It's incredible how articulate he is and knowledgeable he is about all of the goings-ons.
Yep.
Well done.
He also makes me question what I'm doing with my life as a caster. While we're talking caster, shout out to local favorite Sam, also bursting onto the scene, nationals caster from over there at
Three floating.
I was gonna say pitch for 3, but that sounds I knew what I was trying to say. It's 3 floating. Those guys are cool. But yeah, did a great job at his first like major event, and yeah, super proud of you. So I don't know if you still listen to the show, but if you do, great job, man.
Hell yeah. Shout out to friend of the show, Yuki Lee Bender. Ooh. The Canadian GOAT and the Lexi GOAT winning the US calling, just the Canadian invasion and just this straight up beat down.
Yeah. Let me just
on North America.
Let me just warm up to national season by winning a huge calling.
Yeah. So awesome. Yeah. She's so cool. Terminator.
Hell yeah. Great job, Yuki. And I guess our last shout out, this one's like a little older, but it's just been a minute. Shout out to Fuzzy Delp. He was one of our players champs at the AGE Players Championship. He is a kind of newer competitive player, and he actually came on to play the Open Series, the AGE Open Series, to kind of level up his competitive play. He did so well that he, made it to the championship there. And he also has a podcast. It's a newer podcast, and I've listened to it. It is called Pitch It To Me, and it's very good. So you should check it out.
Nice.
They talk about,
I will.
They kind of focus on game design elements, kind of looking at it from that angle, but they also have like a great kind of intro to Fab, and they've got a fun little theme of like each there's three hosts. Also shout out to Joel, who is one of the other hosts, who is uh he's like one of the people that won our first mat that we made, and I gave it to him at Vegas.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, there's three of them, and they do like the red pitch, the yellow pitch, and the blue pitch. And I don't know like what thematically they stand for, but like they each kind of take a stance, and then they cover that thing, which is like a fun way to set up the
Cool.
podcast. So yeah, check it out.
You mean a podcast has a format? A podcast with a format? Incredible.
What is that?
Yeah, we just say words.
How does he do it?
Honorary shout out, well, real shout out to well, okay, hold on. I'm gonna check out Pitch It To Me podcast also. Shameless plug. If you want to have either of us on your podcast or channel, we're available. We're ready. Ready to mingle. That's what I'm gonna say. Shout out to New Zealand top eighter Dark Destroyer. One of the greatest names in Flesh and Blood, period. So
I'm the Dark Destroyer.
shout out to you.
I was born in the dark.
Exactly. Final thing before we get into the main topic. Look, we give you this content free every single month. 99% of the things we do, not behind a paywall. But you want to get into that 1% of the things we do. This is the NPR, public television, public radio model.
I'll send you a tote. Do you want a tote? I got plenty. They don't say the Attack Action Podcast, but they're good totes.
They might say something like Chautauqua Natural Foods on it or something like that, you know?
Exactly.
Shout out to local grocer Chautauqua Natural Foods. So we're audience supported here, you know? So we're giving it to you free. And then if you feel like our content has value in your life and you would like to support us, the best way you can do that is on Patreon. $4 a month gets you access to the Discord, the Patreon exclusive podcast we do, the Time Snap Potion. It's non-fab related.
This week we talked about Baldur's Gate 3.
We did, and we had a great time, and I didn't even realize how long that episode was.
I know. I think it was longer than the other recording we made.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, check it out. And then if you want to pay us more money, you have that option as well. But you also get access to pre-orders for any sort of swag we do or anything like that. And this is the big one. You're going to get invited to the Attack Action Podcast Battle Bros Hype House. Hype House in April, beginning of April. That's what we're going with. Beginning of April, not super confirmed yet, but that's where it looks like. That first week of April, maybe second week, etc. of 2024.
Ooh.
So buy your plane tickets now. It's going to be a centralized location in California. Hype House. We're talking about hanging out, having a good time, recreating when you travel to nationals with your homies. You get the Airbnb, you get some brewskis, you crack the brewskis, you draft Arcane Rising Unlimited, have a great time, stay up too late, do your deck list last minute, show up to nationals, O2 drop, do some side events, go out to dinner, have too much pizza, come back, drink maybe too much, and then do Sunday a little hungover. But you got to draft until 3 a.m. So recreating that type of vibe
without like the competitive shit in the middle.
Yeah.
It'll just be that, but all day, every day, with other board games and other activities. Who knows? We're just gonna like have a good ass time hanging out, playing games.
Yeah.
We'll probably do a famous Attack Action Podcast competitive format of,
Oh yeah. Yes, we will.
bring 2 decks, and then you gotta like play somebody else's other deck kind of situation. Shout out to the old episodes. But yeah, we'll do something fun. I said competitive, but it's for fun.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you get all of that stuff if you're a part of the patron, and really, it's just to help support us. We got a bunch of new microphones. The podcast is way easier to edit, and I think I sound even better.
By a bunch, he means two.
Yep,
So
a bushel. I'm sorry. I'm bringing my dog threw up in the morning way too early before my alarm energy, and then I've had 3 coffees today and worked all day energy. So I'm a little all over the place too. And I feel like when Colin's on, he's the host, so which is kind of fun.
Which means we're never gonna get to where we're supposed to on time because I like to take little scenic routes,
Totally. That's what the people love, though.
Meander our way to the main topic. Today, as we said, the main topic is Nationals recap, mainly focusing on U.S. Nationals, but the conversation might, as I said, meander. We'll see. Yeah, but it was a big event. I think, first couple things, some really great highlights of the event. 522 people participated, US Nats. That's huge. I think it's the biggest one. That's really good sign for the game. Exciting to know that people are still believe that they can go. That one guy brought his Arachne deck and was like, I'm going to do it. I'm taking Arachne to Nationals and you cannot stop me. You're not allowed to stop me. It's legal. And it's awesome. Like everyone goes, they want to play their best. Tons of people from SoCal went. A lot of, some of them very good. I should have shouted them out. Maybe I'll shout them out later, but I don't want to get.
Dude, look, okay. In the top 64, I lost track. It was just like Mr. SoCal this, Mr. SoCal that, SoCal this guy. This guy's also from California. Just like the West Coast did a very good job being in the top performers of Nats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craig Pollock, Chris Ioli,
Andrew Rudin.
I think Anthony Pham did good.
Yep.
All my guys.
Yeah.
You're all my guys.
Even
though me and Chris never said anything to each other once, but I love your energy.
Chris is always.
Let's hang out next time.
I like Chris.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it really great showing from everybody, but it looked like a lot of fun. I was living vicariously through everyone on Discord, sharing, where are we going to eat messages and posting funny pictures of Blake smiling and different things. Yeah, just it looked like a blast. I was sad I couldn't go, but it was just too much for me in my life right now. So, we'll just have to go to the next one.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, it looked like it was a great event. I mean, things are starting to level up, the cosplay. Did you see the cosplay highlights? Like, I can't believe some of those outfits were so great. Data Doll 1. I'm blanking on that cosplayer's name. Max Ferocity on Twitter or X or whatever it's called.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't see that. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's like crazy legit, and there's just some really, really great ones. There's like I really loved Numbskulls on there.
Really?
That guy's doing
a
great job. The Icelander's great. I mean, there's multiple dashes. There's just a ton of them that were really good. And, I wish that sort of thing would get like a little bit more coverage. You know what I mean? Like those people put out put in just as much work as everybody else does who's playing the game,
Mm,
if not more. And they like, show up for their 4 seconds of fame. And so we should do that. You know what I mean?
totally.
And
They
and cover them.
they bring such great energy to the events and they work really hard. So, I mean, I think when you're there, they do give, you know, it seems like they're doing a better job at kind of like bringing that to the forefront. But yeah, shout out to everyone who participates. It's a lot of work. I do not want to put that much effort into what I'm wearing. So I appreciate that you do. And even like the low effort ones, it's like they still had to figure it out, it's like you still had to find the right clothes and costumes. I mean, not everybody's going to fully paint their body blue or green. I guess at least just his chest. That's really funny. I think it's just his chest on the numbskull.
It is good. So yeah, like all of those themes great, and a lot of people had a lot of fun is what it looked like with the FOMO I was having here at work, sweating with teenagers because it's been very hot
I also heard
lately.
that side event tickets or like entrance into side events was kind of transferable. So people who bought packages could like give their entries to other people, which I thought was great because I think in the past when Channel Fireball was running it that they didn't allow that. So you basically just lost your money on those packages because they only let you in certain ones and then nobody could use it. So it was kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
So yeah, it seems like Star City did a great job hosting the live event. So yeah, I think overall it seemed like a pretty good success. It is in Vegas, which I don't want to have to go to Vegas that much in my life, but I get it. They've got big space,
yeah, and a lot of it.
cheaper than Las Vegas.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty gritty, I do have a critique, I gotta say, about Nationals, mainly around the production of the event. That was the live stream. So this is what I gotta say. This is our third Nationals event, I think. Right? We've had three:
That sounds
Tarek,
right.
Michael Hamilton, and now Charles Dunn.
Yep.
Uh, good old Chuck Dunn. Chuck Dunn done it. All right, that's joke's probably been happened before.
Spoiling the joke.
we got to step up our game on the stream production because that's like the portal where most of the people view the game and can interact with it. You know what I mean? And like I just like me and Colin have talked about this watching Evo earlier this month and just like the production behind that. And now I understand that there's like a lot more money in that and those events and that sort of thing, like way more than is for our little game. You know what I mean? But we have to like invest in those productions.
Yeah.
It's just like so important to make it really cool. Like we've done it. We've made a great game that has many great sets and has been super fun for years now. And I've dedicated many hours of my life to playing it and talking about it, etc. They're nailing that stuff. They need to nail the stream. It needs to level up. That's my biggest critique there about that.
Yeah.
Graphically, the camera needs to be better, etc.
Look, like yeah, I'm just glad they fixed the lighting. Day one's lighting was just like dark and it's like you barely see the cards. You could like the hosts, the commentators look like they were like in a basement.
Yeah.
It just looked dark and kind of unfriendly. And it was just kind of weird. They fixed that look like on day two and day three. I don't know. Here's one thing that I can we figure out as a community, how do you light cards in sleeves so that you can see them on a camera that is stationed directly above them? I feel like it can't
Yeah.
be that hard. Like put the light at an angle. Like I don't know, just figure it out when you're setting up the lights with the camera, and I know it's a thing. It's a thing that like everybody struggles with. Like if you have ever tried to like record something of your cards like with sleeves, there's a lot of glare, but there's got to be a way. And I think we need either we need to like build a new solution and start a new company that's just for lighting card games, or like just spend a little bit more time setting up those lights so that it looks so that you can just see the cards better. It's like I get like the equipment sometimes it's like okay, well it doesn't move, so it's like not as important, but it just would be nice if it looked better. Also, they had this weird this thing, I don't know what it is, but like on Star City Game streams, they have like a weird black dot grid over the camera feed. Like, does anybody else see this? It makes me feel like I'm going crazy because there's just like a bunch of tiny black dots in a grid, which looks like it's
Huh.
some kind of calibration thing, but it's on the stream. We can see it, and it's weird to see that on the stream. So turn that off. uh, but I totally get it. I think the shout out or the call out of making it better, and this is how people view it. Like this is how a lot of new people will view it too. So like
Yeah.
if it's not really inviting, then it's you're gonna lose people. And I feel like the commentators overall did a really good job of kind of making sure to explain even basic uh you know mechanics and stuff like that when they were like kind of introduced in each of the games, which I thought sometimes can be like, well yeah I know that, but like there's people being like, what game is this, because it's on Star City games channel, and they're not usually there to watch Flesh and Blood. So
Hmm.
it is important to remember that there are people who are not familiar who will be finding this, and that this might be their first impression. So it should be, always putting our best foot forward. And I know that you can do a lot with a small budget because we've done it all year at AGE. It's
Yep.
make the stream look really good. And sometimes there's just technical difficulties. There's always that. And I do appreciate that they do the backup game as well to make sure that there's enough content all day. But yeah, it's just, I was hoping for a little bit more. But I think, yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't want to like harp on them. I think, it seems like they
Totally.
did a
And
great job overall, but it's just like the details. Like it's the details that, I mean, I guess, that says something about it if we're just harping on a couple of like detailed things, but like they do matter, and it does have an impact on the overall experience.
yeah, and I we are not trying to discount anybody's like hours of work and the stressful part of putting on something live for a gigantic, well, in quotations, gigantic audience. Um, like people put in a lot of work to do that. And I know how that is to then get criticism for that thing. But we also can't, just not get better. You know what I mean? Like you got to constantly evolve as a person, and we got to evolve our stream just as we require all human beings in a good society to improve, So we just need that. I like really need that for next nationals or for worlds or for whatever, we have to like level up our stream game, you know? It would be so important. It makes it so much more fun when the stream is like better. So that's it. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
That's it. On to the next one. I guess we're going to talk about the meta.
Yep. So I don't think that there were any surprises in this meta other than the deck that won. But in terms of pr proportions,
The biggest surprise.
yeah, which is totally cool. But in terms of the most represented deck, Lexi, and then basically Icelander, Dromai, and Bravo are all within. That's a 7-player spread between those three. They're basically all tied for second most represented deck. And then the fourth most represented hero is Briar, which is like 20 more than the next highest spot. So that is basically what I would have, if you had asked me to rank them, I probably would have ranked them very similarly myself, just with all of the predictions of things that the data we had leading up to this nationals event.
Yeah.
Colin, any thoughts on them numbers there?
Just again, shout out to the guy who played Arachne, 100% conversion into day 2, I think, according to this chart. So that's awesome. Yeah, no, it is what we thought it would be. There's a lot of Lexi. Lexi is the premier aggro deck right now. She's very strong. She doesn't care about her elemental powers very much, but she's got them, and a bow that is super good. And then Icelander kind of has made like a big resurgence after doing really well at some events leading up to this. I think I would have thought there'd be a little bit more Dromai, but I do understand that the deck is a little harder to pilot. So if you're not familiar with it, it could be a harder thing to try to jump on, and it does have some bad matchups. So it is not a slam dunk. So
yeah, with kind of Bravo and Briar in those numbers, that's like still a lot of the decks that can be pretty challenging.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think that isn't a surprise. We keep talking about how oh, the meta is so open right now, but I honestly, it doesn't feel that way when this is like the general shape of metas going into like top eights. Like, the top tables is Icelander, it's Dromai, it's Lexi, and then sometimes Briar and sometimes Bravo. And that's that's mostly it. Kano sometimes sneaks in there, but more often than not, he doesn't make it all the way. He's always just kind of a wild card. So it's kind of hard to count that as like a real data point. But yeah, it seems very samey as to what it's been. Levia, everyone's like, oh, Levia's got this cool new, demi hero thing, and it's just proven to be, she still can just die to her own gimmick and doesn't have any hit effects. So, if you can't out damage the biggest damage dealing deck that also has a ton of hit effects, you kind of can't win. You can't win nationals that way. So it's a weird thing because like I think the meta or the game always supports people who are specialists and who dedicate their time to a single hero. They can always perform, they have a chance of performing really well because they know their hero. They can build and tune their deck to what they think the meta is. And, some heroes can do this better than others, but people just they can do it. Dude can go to Australian national champions with Dash and win, even though nobody else is, really saying Dash is like the winningest deck right now. So it's there's always that factor, but then we just have to look at the numbers and like the past year. Like, I mean, like what was Worlds last year? Icelander, Briar, Dromai, was Lexi good enough?
Oldhim.
Oh yeah, we had Oldhim. Yeah, so we've just replaced Oldhim with Lexi, and that's just kind of where all of our top eights are kind of are at. And I think, and I'm talking about the US, I think we have a very particular approach to this game. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint the difference from other places, but just the fact that other countries can have like Reinar and other Bolton one in Slovenia. Like, we've got Dash and I guess a couple Kanos one in the Philippines and in Poland. Like, there's different, metas and different kind of cultural elements that are brought to the game. But in the US for sure, it's always just like it's very like focused value, like I'm going to play the deck that has the numbers and the consistency to beat what is else out there right now. So, which I guess is what you want, but I don't know.
Yeah, when it's a competitive game.
From a spectator's point of view, I'm just kind of like, okay, we're gonna do this matchup again. All right.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's probably just like a hard thing to manufacture into uh, card games. You know what I mean? Especially when, you have a supplemental set that doesn't like push the needle too much for other new heroes and that sort of thing, which I think is totally fine. But, and I don't mean to be like too negative about everything. And I don't know if it is like being negative, but it's more of like a personal feel of just the last couple of metas have been a little too samey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think if you had asked me a couple of years ago if I would care about that. And I kind of do, because now I'm like in this kind of rhythm of, okay, shiny new thing, mixing it up. And I think in the past I've enjoyed the metas a little bit more and have been like, oh, let's just stay in this right now. It's good. It's good. We got it. Let's just stay in here. Why would we ever go outside? We have this. You know what I mean? And then somebody's like, well, this thing's outside. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine.
We have meta
We'll get
at
into
home,
that.
Taylor.
Yeah. And now I'm like, the other side of that coin. I've been around long enough to where I'm like, okay, we could use like a new freshness. I need some like new top decks,
Yeah.
That sort of thing, a different angle to attack, because it's like just hasn't been my particular meta. Now, all of that being said, that does lead to like a pretty cool story for the national championship. So we have new U.S. national champion. Mega shout out to him, Charles Dunn. I think now a SoCal native, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct, Colin? Does he live in SoCal now?
Unclear. Somebody said he lives in Ohio. Charles Dunn, come on our show and tell us where you live. And
I think he was at Battle Hardened LA, but I could be wrong. I was pretty sure he was there. But who knows? Let me know in the comments.
there's
So,
no comments on the podcast.
well, on YouTube
Okay.
there is.
You're right.
So Charles Dunn shows up, and we've seen this. I feel like this is like a thing, right? Like when we had Bullander, Michael Hamilton was just like, "Hey, what if I turn this other hero into a guardian?"
Mm.
Where I just kind of like block and play these value attacks, and then I'll still get a wizard
Dude, yeah, both dudes, Charles Dunn, famous like old him kind of fatigue player previously, had the same idea as Michael Hamilton last year, but with a different hero. It's like, you know what, Crown of Seeds is good. What if I just play Briar like she's old him?
Yeah, exactly. So like Charles Dunn takes basically control Briar to a national championship, and looking at his deck, it's It's so dope because it's so
It,
just hyper focused on blue block threes that now block for four because all of my attacks are vanilla damage basically that come in at a breakpoint of seven. So do you want to give me three cards and deny me this uh, embodiment of Earth, or are you just going to take seven or some number in between, and then I get my embodiment of Earth, and now my blue come to fights block for four? You know,
yeah.
it's just it's freaking dope, and it's just Guardian Briar. I'm just going to outvalue you over the whole game. Crown of Seeds is super good when you pair that with Tunic. You know, and it's like I think Brian Gottlieb did a great job uh, doing the finals, commentating on the finals. So did Ethnic Smoke, where they talked about like, you know, Charles Dunn's power turns in quotations is when he has like a card in Arsenal, Tunic up, and an embodiment of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just gives you so many defensive options to just be really really efficient with your card economy and your like life total and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's a dope idea because it does that thing. This will be my last point, and then I'll let you talk a Rooney here, Colin. It does that thing everybody wants to do, is show up with a surprising deck that nobody knows how to sideboard against.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then also be really powerful, right? That's what our homeboy Arachne is doing. You know, it's like, what's your game plan into me? You don't know. I'm the only one here.
Let me look at your
But then you
cards.
like win nationals. Yeah.
Oh wait, I died. But thanks for letting me look at your cards.
Yeah. So it's a and it's like Briar's last living legend points, you know, which is like a really fun story as well. Like, I'm gonna bring her over the line without Rosetta Thorn, without doing Channel Mount Heroic shenanigans. I'm just gonna trade and win with Reaping Blade.
Yeah.
It's so sick.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Colin?
I mean, it's just so interesting. Like these these dudes are just like they think about this game and they come up with this idea of like, oh, what if I had, 28 cards in my deck that all could block for four on any given turn. I just have to do a single point of damage to them, and I have literally half a deck of defense reactions that aren't even defense reactions, and it's just nuts. I think it's really interesting. It I think it played out more interesting than other fatigue decks, at least watching it, just maybe because it's still novel. I think if Briar didn't LL and we had to watch this deck kind of take over the meta for a while, I think it might get a little stale. But watching the Icelanders and the Lexis try to deal with this was really, really interesting. And I think he had a plan. Like, he knew his game plan and everybody else was trying to react. So he just had that extra bit of, edge to it. But then like it wasn't even just that. It's like the inclusion of like Diabolic Ultimatum, where you can choose an ally. What was it? If you pitch an attack, you can choose an ally. If you pitch a non-attack, you can choose and destroy an aura. So Fool was just playing this card to destroy frost hexes, and
Channel like Frigid,
or Insidious Chill. It's like
Channel Mount
he
Heroic.
could do it to both. Like, he does it both sides. It's like they have to, and it's just like that. That's some 5D chess of like, let's play a card that like nobody's playing, and let's like be like, oh yeah, that's a good card. And then of course, he had like he had Runic Reclamation. Yeah, Runic Reclamation.
Yeah,
where it's just, here's a 3-for-7 that also I can destroy a fucking rune chant or an aura. You can destroy an aura, and you're just like, just this big brain shit. And then he was just like, oh yeah, and a remembrance and pulse of candle hole too, just to recurse my deck. And he even has last ditch effort, like just fully playing the fatigue plan. Um, I also love that he had Oath of the Arc Knight in here. This is like it's funny because it felt like the most rune bladey Briar deck there's ever been, which is like it's weird to say that, but he played these cards that like Briar never plays, like you know,
And Oath of the Arknight used to be one of my in blue
yeah,
used to be one of my favorite little dealy bobs with Reaping Blade because you're like, well, if I put this in Arsenal and I wind up with a blue in my hand, then I come in for 5 damage with a rune chant, and Reaping Blade comes in for 4. So
yeah,
like late game, that's like very threatening,
yeah.
And that's
And
like,
when he did, when that was the coolest thing because this card he's pitching, and then in the end of the game he's playing it, and all of a sudden Reaping Blade is coming in at a break point and split damage, and you're just like,
yeah.
bro, bro, Charles Dunn, like I mean, just talking about it, I just like I feel like I'm getting more hype than I was when I came into this episode. But um, and then he's playing like Evergreen. If you play from your arsenal, it goes to the bottom of your deck. Like he's just like, yeah, what if I just didn't have to lose cards and I just kept putting cards back in and I kept, just hitting you for 7 and blocking for 4 at a time. And you're just like, this is too easy. So yeah, I think just really great call, pretty, take a lot of chutzpah to bring this to nationals and be confident on it and pilot it the
Yeah.
way he did into so many aggressive decks. And of course, like he had to do really well in the draft portion too.
Yep.
I think that's something that people really forget about is like, yeah, this deck did well at the beginning and the end, but he had to like just be a good fab player through the whole, end of
Yep.
day one, beginning of day two. And he just crushed it. And it was just like it was pretty cool to see that happen, and very funny that is like Briar's like last big hurrah. She was like 2 points from Living Legend, and then it's just like now she's 100 over or whatever. Like
Yeah.
straight up like bursted through that glass ceiling of Living Legend with the most, you know, un I don't know, like non-standard Briar deck
Yeah.
that like somehow, like I said, was more Rune Blade than anything else she's been before.
It's not like a dark horse hero, but it is a dark horse deck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like that's what you want every major tournament is for the dark horse to win. You know what I mean? So you can't really make a better story than that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And like just all of the percentage points you get early in the tournament in Swiss where they're like, okay, Briar, sweet, gonna tech for defensive, or aggressive or what, however your game plan is into Briar and your specific sideboard, because it is definitely a player in the meta. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm pretty sure I will see this deck once minimum at my nationals run.
Mm-hmm.
And then to just be like, uh-oh, Crown of Seeds, Reaping Blade, uh-oh, what do I do? Or you go, idiot, meme deck, gonna smoke you. And then you're like, crap, I just lost.
Yeah. He's
You
got
know what I mean?
18 poppers in his deck.
Yeah.
Like 18 poppers, almost 30 cards that can sometimes block for 4. It's just like this deck is busted. I think it just highlights that Briar was kind of that what wasn't kind of Briar was a busted hero. And I was thinking about this earlier before we changed into this area of the topic, but like the shape of the meta over the past couple of years has just been warped by Tales of Aria. Like
Yeah.
we have just been one at a time dealing with the different problems introduced by Tales of Aria. And it's just like
For
for
years. For
years, like,
years.
and we still will have to because Lexi is so strong. Like they were just like, what if we just give her like the most arrows that have hit effects that she can load twice and give go again? And you're just like, dudes, have you played this deck? It's awesome. I need to play Lexi. She seems good. But yeah, you know, and I want to talk about this next because I've I feel like just talking about his deck, it's been really fun to look at his deck. So if you haven't looked at it, go look at his deck. It's on the Flesh and Blood website. And I have such a deeper appreciation for what he's done here after looking at this. Because I think the end of the tournament was such a it was a weird ending where
You mean the top eight?
well the finals, like the very final
Yeah.
game, Evan, 19-year-old Lexi player playing his heart out, took down Michael Hamilton, the world champion, in the quarterfinals, like
Yeah.
worked his way all the way to the finals,
Yeah.
like playing.
On a heater.
Yeah,
This young gun on a heater.
dude, just long hair, don't care. I'm gonna win on Lexi. He comes in, he is trying so hard to like get around Charles Dunn's deck. And you see at a certain point that I think something happens where he has to pitch a three of a kind, and then he's just like pitching red arrows after that, and a blue. Like he sets it up. He's like, "This is how I need to win this game." And then he finally draws into it, and Charles Dunn plays Warmonger's Diplomacy, and it's just like, shit. I think he just won U.S. Nationals because he played this card, which I think, on further analysis, you might be able to go back and prove that Evan might not have had the ability to win out. I think Charles had too much of a life lead where,
Mhm.
even blocking all his cards, even having a crazy three of a kind turn, I don't know if he was going to deal like
He
that much damage with what he had left.
Our boy Chuck also had some really well timed CNCs, as well.
Yeah.
So just getting a little fortunate there versus Evan as well.
But yeah, I just want to say, like, I don't think that's the story. I don't think Warmaw, like, as much as I don't like that card, and I don't think it's actually very interesting for the game that it exists.
Mhm.
I don't want it to be like, oh, that card won the game. I think he won that game, all the way leading up to that, and he was already going to
Yeah.
win it. Like Evan was out of cards. Like there's like nothing left in his
Yeah.
deck. He wasn't going to be able to do, the damage I think he needed to do. But that might, if you've gone deep into it and you've labbed it all out and you can say yes it is, like he would have done it, like please let me know. But even then it's just like, I like, if that won him that game, and he won all the other ones the same. Like it's just, he brought, like I said, he knew his game plan. Everyone else was trying to react to it. They couldn't quite figure it out, and like he just took it. It's like super awesome that to see that. And I'd rather see that than like, be like, yep, well, Lexi won because she's just the best aggro hero, like,
Yeah.
which has like been the case a lot of times
Hmm.
in big tournaments.
Yeah. And a lot of time, so we've seen different ways to combat decks that are willing to block more than attack, and usually those strategies are like, a little complicated and rather like a long game plan, and they start from turn 0, not like halfway through when you have to like pivot your strategy. You know what I mean? And it takes practice and practice to figure that out, and I think Evan did an amazing job just navigating turn to turn through that whole game to try to find the right combination of cards in the window to kind of, evade the kind of inevitable wall of Crown of Seeds Briar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was a really great finals match, I thought, from just like a technical knowing the game inside and out. And like, I mean, that's all like one of the cool things about, I think, when you spend so much time with a game and you're just watching two people play, that you can see the subtle changes in their play patterns
Mm-hmm.
based on the other person's strategy and that sort of thing. And it's just like such a cool moment in this game, and our knowledge of it and being around it so much to be like, oh, he's like changing strategies right here, that's why he's doing that, etc. Is this going to pay off? And it
Mm-hmm.
builds like some anticipation and some drama into the game, and then and it's just really cool. And I think it's one of the better kind of nationals, maybe finals we've had, and that sort of thing, And I just, it's freaking sweet. It's a cool story, and I would be interested to see, what this deck is gonna like push the meta to do, but its national season is like pretty short lived, so we will just like never see that, which is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I mean it's a moment in time, and Charles got to like really put his stamp on it. So it's like a pretty cool thing that he can do something that was really unique, was really effective, but didn't have to have like a lasting warping effect on the meta, because Briar's gone now. So maybe a couple weeks, or that this deck might be around, and maybe I'd be interested to see if people start bringing it next week to nationals, to their nationals, to see
Yeah, totally.
if they can do it, and if we see more of this kind of approach. But yeah, I think it was a great game. Shout out to Evan. I think he played so well in all of his top 8 matches. The one against Michael Hamilton, like just both of them, just like really thinking like how to squeak out the advantage hand to hand, turn to turn, to take that game. And like bro just like stared down the national or the world champ, and just like
Yeah.
took it like in the mirror, like small interesting changes between their deck. Definitely like Ice Quake seemed like it was like good for Evan, when he got to play that. So like just kind of cool to see how those kind of different play patterns and card choices affected their game. But yeah, really, really interesting. And I think yeah, shout out to everybody in the top 8. That's
Yeah.
it was fun to
what an
watch.
accomplishment,
It was not
like
fun to watch Fino get like stampeded, but that it's Lexi. Sometimes
it
that just
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
That's just glad the rest of the games didn't go that way.
Yeah. Speaking of Lexi, I just want to shout out Trench as
Strange.
being such an early polarizing card everybody talked about. Is it good? It's strictly worse than Tunic. Why would you ever run this? Blah, blah, blah. No, Trench is good. Like, don't you always want a resource on your turn? etc. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And here it is, just like a part of the meta,
Yeah.
having a real role in it.
Shout
You
out
know what I
to
mean?
our Evan Bridges.
Hell yeah.
Been playing
Evan
Trench
Bridges.
since it came out, to great effect. So, he knew, he saw the signs.
Yeah.
And it definitely opened up everyone else's eyes.
Trendsetter. I just want to remind everybody in the audience about that's what we were talking about at some point. Definitely in our Discord, and I just want to then like remind you as the new set comes out, keep an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The game is well designed and cards have a purpose. even if it's not apparent right away.
Here's the real question, Taylor. What's the next hero that we can turn into a guardian and win everything with?
Uh, it's called Talishar Ice Lexi. We've already done it. Shout out to Jesse Harper. He's already done it.
The man's cracked.
The man's cracked.
I mean,
Speaking,
it's a good question though, so keep it in mind. It seems like
yeah,
these decks that if that's my problem. I'm like, this deck, Icelander's a wizard. She should cast spells. And it's like, nah, bro, she should punch you for 7. Like,
or 8.
or 8.
That brings me to my other point I wanted to bring up is kind of, I don't know if it's an interesting design point in the game that decks that have this kind of consistent ability to block well and send a relevant number of damage continually do really well. You know, we saw very early in the game Dash having a ton of success with this like very same game plan. We've seen Bravo do it. We've seen Oldhim do it. We've seen Briar do it. We've seen Icelander to some extent, a little different. I know arcane damage, Stormstriders, etc. But you kind of understand the theme I'm talking about here. A lot of the top decks that we've had floating around have this game plan. Or like even the decks that have that game plan are like, you know, not the best deck, maybe not the second best, but the third, like a player in the meta. You know what I mean? Where you have like good numbers, simple, consistent kind of plans that all revolve around blocking some and sending some damage, blocking some, sending some damage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that will just like always be a really good idea in Fab. You know, the only times that's broken is when the hero itself is broken. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Think of that. Like the top decks were Starvo, absolutely broken. Chain, absolutely broken. Nerfed, broken again. Briar.
So broken.
Ridiculously broken.
Remember when she used to get embodiments of Earth stacked up and be like, I block CNC with 1 card.
Yeah. You know, Visceri with Skeleta. You know what I mean? Just like really out there decks. Yeah. Luminaris, etc. You know what I mean? And even that's like the inverse of good numbers. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I have all of these 1 damage things that just are sitting out here so I can block with like my whole hand, you know, type of plan. So I don't know if it's I have no opinions really about that other than it's a theme I have noticed. Like, is it good? I don't know. Seems fine. It doesn't upset me. Is it bad? Is that uninteresting? I mean, I don't know. It's pretty interesting to dress up Briar as a guardian. That's interesting, you know?
To be fair, the Crown of Seeds looks like it was made for Briar more than it was for
yeah, this is like
thematically
the closest to Briar's theme, probably. That's
what I'm saying. It's the most Runebladey Earth Runebladey deck that we've seen, which is just like hilarious to say.
Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And honestly, I think that's something that is hard to, you know, it's hard to look at everything and be like, and find that, you know, vector of like, okay, like what is a deck that can do those things, you know, and then come up with something like fatigue, control, Briar. That is all, you know, that also just send in haymakers, you know, it's
and it kind of goes back to that thing Brian Gottlieb said on somebody else's podcast elsewhere about adding a bit more variance into the game, you know, is just seeing the writing on the wall that this is just like kind of a winning strategy you can slap onto everybody. Also, RIP, Crown of Seeds, officially LL'd as well until we get another Earth hero.
No. Well, just waiting. Rosetta Thorn, though, gone.
Yeah, dead.
So
R.I.P. Runeblades.
fucking let's bring the Dread Scythe and have a good
Let's
time.
go. Give me a Dread Scythe Runeblade.
let's let's do it. Anyways. Um no, that's that's the game. That's like how you find and how you discover like an previously undiscovered deck and strategy is by really analyzing those things, being able to say like, you know, these combinations of hero abilities and weapons and resources, like all these things come together. And when you say it out loud, you go read Charles Dunn's deck, like you're just like, oh yes, of course. Like these are all 3 for 7s. You have a bunch of blues. All your blues are mostly non-attack actions. Those will block for 4 when you hit for 1 when you send a
Yeah.
3 for 7 at somebody. And then those are all poppers. So that's like another matchup that you might struggle into. And it's just like all these things come together. You're just like, well, yeah, that just makes so much sense. But I'm sure people were looking at it and people were trying it, but to really hone it and be able to pilot it the way he did, I think, definitely just well done. And, I don't think I'll miss I'll miss this deck, but I was happy to see it show up and burn bright and then be gone.
Totally. Yeah. It's a great job. Cool nationals.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I will say, as we kind of pivot away here from our main topic, is I love seeing me some Monarch draft games. I think it is a really exciting viewer experience to watch it because you have you have so many moments you're waiting for. Do they have a popper right now? It would be really huge if they had a popper, Are they going to try to fatigue Chain? Oh, they are. Okay. Is he going to set up the ultimate pitch stack? Is Leviah going to freaking whiff and just die?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, Bolton's out there doing his thing. Sorry, that was a bit of a joke on Bolton, but Bolton has exciting turns as well. V of the Vanguard. Oh my God, he has it. All that stuff. And just all the interplay between the heroes and like the fact that you have this moment where you're like, all right, kid, we're going to go for it. And you pivot on a dime and try to like win the game right then and steal all of the tempo. It's just they did a good job making it really fun to watch. And maybe it's my bias as that is one of my all-time favorite sets and favorite sets to draft and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a great time being like, man, Monarch's great. Now drafting it might be like a totally different story, but I enjoy that. So would have been fine. Probably 6-0'd my draft if I went to nationals. No big deal.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, no, it was fun to see some of those games. Michael Fang versus Michael Hamilton had a great Prism Leviah matchup. Really exciting to see both them kind of play those heroes at like a really high level and just like make really good choices. Like is definitely watching that. I was like, we did a Monarch draft at an armory recently. I was just like, oh, that's where I messed up playing Prism. Just like I should just let my Spectral Shield die sometimes rather than just blocking so much.
Sidebar shout out to Australian Nat Stream. I think they did a great job over there with the Skeleton Crew. And I'm sorry, gentlemen, since I'm doing this off the top of my head, the guy who did a lot of the casting was excellent. Hire that person. Him and Ethnic Smoke in the same room, casting a game. That's what I want.
Yeah, I appreciated that they just made it happen. It didn't seem like they had the space to have like commentator's booth. And honestly, the equipment you need to do that in a space is like stupid compared to just being like, hey, let's just have a couple guys, at home watching the stream and
Yeah, yeah.
commentating. Like it's way easier to do that. Just FYI. But we have the technology. But yeah, I thought they did great too. It was fun to watch and uh, definitely did a good job. Um,
And shout out to anybody who streamed their nationals. Like, great job, everybody. Thank you so much for putting all of that extra content out into the world.
yeah, it's so cool to
That's
see
awesome.
everyone else in their country's meta play this game the way they play it in slightly different ways,
Yeah.
and see what they bring to it. So it's cool to see that and see people. Some people are kind of known entities, and you don't get to see them as much, but it is a treat for all of us, and we do appreciate it and the hard work it goes into putting on those streams.
Hell yeah. Anything else, Mr. Choningman, about nationals or the like?
Now, next year we're winning with the Guardian Kano.
Hell yeah. Sergeant Aethertide.
Yeah, baby.
Let's go. I'm going to put this part in here. So, look, everybody, now we've talked about all of the juicy, controversial takes we had. You probably have questions or comments about it. If you do, take out your phone, start the memo app, record a question, attach it to an email, send it to the attackactionpodcast@gmail.com. And then on the next episode, I will play that question and someone on this podcast or someone's will answer it. And you will get to be famous for a very short amount of time. Everybody's dream.
We'll say your name, which feels cool when you're listening to a podcast and they say your name.
Are we going to pronounce it correctly? It's a coin flip.
If you say it on the voice memo, we will.
That's very true also.
Yeah. Send us questions. If you don't want to send a voice memo, send it to the email. You could do that too. Voice memo is fun though. You could do it. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
We all sound weirder than we think we do. That's a fact.
Yeah, and then you go on somebody else's podcast and they're like, you just have like a silky, great voice. And you're like, you mean my phlegm?
Tommy Fresh says that to everybody, though.
No, he doesn't say that to everybody.
He said it to me too, but I still think about it.
That's what I'm saying, Colin, is that he said it to you.
I thought he said it
That was
to
a
you.
shout out. No, he doesn't say that to me.
Oh, I thought you were talking about yourself. Now this is weird.
No, he says, wow, that your arms and your chest, they're so big and beautiful.
It's like, you don't need to put that shirt on. It's okay.
Yeah, totally.
This is a Christmas
He's
podcast.
like, wow, your thighs are so shredded and your butt so firm. Be on my podcast.
How does your chair handle it?
It's because I got a pillow and an extra cushion. That's how it does it.
Boom. Podcasting.
Behind the scenes. Let's do our signature segment, Colin. Board game from the closet with Colin Honigman.
Board game from the closet. Here at the Attack Action Podcast, we like many games. Board games, video games, card games, folk.
The greatest game.
Folk games, the greatest game.
The most dangerous
Hunting
game.
Man. We enjoy many games, and we like to share those games with you. It's not always our favorite or the best game, but we like to, let you know what we're playing. And this week, it's my board game again. Taylor just put me on the spot too, so I got to think about it.
You should have known. It's either, we could just talk about Baldur's Gate again.
No, it's fine. Shout out to Elliot. I went to Elliot's house this week
Hell yeah, our boy Elliot.
My board game bestie down here. We played Expeditions, which is the sequel
Mm.
to Scythe, made by Jamie Stagmeyer from Stonemeyer Games, and based on the art of Jacob Rosalski. That's why this whole honestly why Scythe is like popular is because this dude just world builded this crazy world through his art, and they were like, let's make a game out of this. Like it just is cool. And always hits. It's just a combination of weird Soviet mech and it's like weird Soviet stuff with like a lot of mechs and kind of steampunky shit. So it's pretty cool. So in this game, pretty different, or a lot of similarities to Scythe, but pretty different in how you play. The board is made up of these hexagonal tiles that you place. So it's not like a board that you just open. So you have like different strips. There's like a level one, level two, level three, basically, of locations. Level one starts face up. Level two and three, you have to like, explore. And you do that with your great big mech. So it's fun that you start off the game with your great big cool mech rather than having to wait till like, a quarter of the game to get those mechs
Mm-hmm.
like you did in Scythe. And then it's a card based game, so it's kind of like a deck builder and a engine builder worker placement combo game, which is actually kind of pretty interesting in how it plays out. If not like sometimes a little, it feels a little clunky at times, where you're just kind of like, well, I just want to like I want to do this thing, but I have to do these two other things to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like never quite as efficient as you want to be, which might be something where, you have to just kind of be better at the game. But, anyways, so rather than inside, you kind of have actions, and you're like you're like selecting the different kind of actions you're going to do each turn. In this one, you are selecting an action that you're not going to do. So you like cover up an action and then you take two other actions. So you can play,
Hmm.
you can gather, or you can, shit, what was the third one?
Battle.
I don't think, is it battle? No, it's not battle. What is it?
Build.
I can't see a picture. I need a picture. Um,
Blank.
yeah, or something else, whatever it is. Or move. That's it. Move. Sorry.
Shit.
Least
I should have picked
exciting one
that.
of all. So basically, other you can move your mech around and explore places. When you gather, you can activate the thing on the place that your mech's at, and when you play, you can play a card. So you're trying to do like all these different things. You gain different kinds of resources, like power and guile is the other one, and you use those to do certain
Sonic Boom.
exactly. Um, so you do that. You can gain cards that are kind of placed out on the board or from the deck. So you're like, building up your deck. You're playing these cards. You're trying to like equip items and meld these meteors and fulfill these quests. And it really like snowballs, like really slow, like for like the first hour, like nobody placed any stars, which is kind of the same system as in Scythe, where when you achieve a certain thing, you place a star. Except to do that, you have to go to a certain location and you have to boast, which is also a thing that felt pretty clunky. It was just like, okay, well, I finally did the thing, but now I got to get over there. But somebody's standing on the boast thing, so I can't use it yet. But maybe I can use the one next to it that lets me use the thing next to it. So it gets a little, it's a little, you know,
Mm-hmm.
scuffly. But that
Mm-hmm.
that all being said, I thought it was really interesting. It feels like there's a lot to kind of do, and the different each like mech has a different like power, and you start off with like a hero and a buddy, a companion, I guess. Most of it's like the, the lady and her tiger, from Scythe, if you're familiar, like, the lady and her bear. And it's like you have those to start with. You use those, you get workers, you place workers when you play cards. So you do all these things, you kind of build these little engines. Feels like maybe there's one too many thing that you have to do to kind of like get to a place that feels like you're really cooking. But it definitely was interesting. I enjoyed playing it. I would play it again for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like it's not something I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. But it was more fun. It was just like it was kind of a crunchier, heavier game, and I was playing with some of Elliot's other friends who play a lot of games together. So it was like cool just to be like getting into a crunchier game like this and be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm like, I understand, from knowing a lot about games how this is supposed to kind of work, but I don't really know what
Yeah.
I'm doing, and I don't know what cards exist or what locations actually do. Spent like
Yeah.
half the game trying to find a location, only to find out that the only
It's in the box.
no, there's only one location that had the thing I was looking for, and it was just already out there. And like, but I was like moving in the other direction, so I was like, well, maybe there's another one over here, and it was just like no. So I kind of like hamstrung myself a little bit. But that being said, expeditions pretty fun. I would, I don't know if I would say go buy it. If you love Scythe, I'd say yeah, probably buy it. It feels like that, but honestly, I think it felt a little more interesting just because you're moving around the map more, and that part felt
More
yeah, it
action.
was like more of that rather than just kind of like I don't know. Scythe just kind of felt like it was like yeah, there's like this always had this promise of like these conflicts, but it always just kind of felt like well, then I pick up my wheat with my mech and I move over here. And you're like cool,
Yeah.
but
I it does sound interesting. I would probably play it. I don't know if I would buy it after this, but that's also my Jamie Stegmaier bias. I have been pretty historically lukewarm about his board games on a whole, and have never been like, oh, I think he has a pretty big following, but I have never been just like a big fanboy of his stuff, and Scythe was just pretty lukewarm at best
yeah,
for me. And I feel like their best game is Wingspan, but he didn't even make that as a different game designer. So
yeah. I think
that's kind of how I feel about
I
it.
played Viticulture 2 recently, and I like that one a lot. I think it's a little more straightforward.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
you're just like
Viticulture is pretty
it's
good.
like, oh, I'm making wine. Like this makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Scythe and, by association expeditions is like the art and like the theme feels so like, ooh. And then like what
Yeah.
you end up doing is kind of just like, oh, okay, yeah. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing a lot of the heavy lifting there.
Yeah. So
The artwork is.
it's doesn't quite deliver on what it looks like it's promising you, but between the two, I think I would say I like Expeditions a little bit more. But I never played Scythe that many times, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I know
Yep.
people love Scythe, so uh I probably just need to play it with like people who like it, but yeah, no. So
Totally.
that's it. That's my board game from the closet today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Colin, for sharing.
Yeah, of course. I love it.
I do. That's why I just let you have it, rather than ramble on my
I
own.
got like a pile of games I need to play just behind me.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I would love that. Earthborn Rangers is almost out, and I can't not wait for that.
That's gonna be fun.
Especially because that's one Maria is said she would play with me,
Nice.
my wife. So that's always great when your significant other's playing games with you. Love it.
Totally.
Anyway, that's our show, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. I had this thought the other day. Here's a little tangent. I remember when we first started the podcast, and it was like, we got 100 downloads or whatever, and or maybe it was like we got only 100 downloads. Like, don't people get like millions or thousands or whatever? That sucks. But then you like remember, and I had this idea because uh, the school year has started, and I have like 14 kids in my class, and I'm just like, I'm here every day, psyched to see them. 14 feels like a great number. And it's like when you get like 100 downloads, you're like, absolutely, I would do this twice a month for 100 people. If 100 people showed up to my like lecture I was giving about this board game or just talking about it, I would 100% do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just like keeping my perspective
be a little freaked
on
out.
things.
Like, holy shit, there are 100 people out there that want to listen to me talk about this.
For 2 different shows we've done, in the same month. It's crazy. So everybody who's beyond 100 is just like a amazing gift every day.
How many beyond 100 are we?
I don't know, 3 or 4.
Nice.
This is also my other dream. I just want to tell somebody is I would love to be podcast famous enough that we could do a live recording in front of a live audience on a stage and like have some crowd interactions and be like, when I give the hello attactioneers, of the 80 people that bought tickets or whatever, just that would be fun.
I feel like we could do that.
Yeah, we maybe could. Just throwing it out there now into the internet ether space. So maybe that will.
Yeah, if you want us to come to your hometown and do a live
your
podcast.
Local coffee shop for open mic, we would love to do a 2-hour set at your local open mic.
Hello, attactioneers. And we're just looking at you.
Show us your tits. Or whatever. Free bird. Things people yell.
Free bird. Just a solo, though. Just skip in the solo. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Like we said, if you have questions, hit us up. Email, voice memo, X. It's Twitter. It's still Twitter. Don't care. You still type twitter.com in, so it's still Twitter.
It's no longer, it's a post.
Yeah, when we post on Twitter about it.
It's just like, I never would have thought it would be sad, like not seeing a made up word would be sad, but it is.
So, post at us or something, I guess. I don't know.
Real strong finish here. Getting melancholy.
But yeah, no, we appreciate you all, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Attack Action Podcast. On Twitter, we are at BattleBro Taylor and at BattleBro Isaac. Shoot us an email, theattackactionpodcast@gmail.com.
If you would like to support us, like and subscribe, shop for singles using our affiliate link, or support our Patreon for as little as $4 per month.